Hello everybody, and welcome. My name is Ariane, and you are on my channel Neptunian Serenity. I hope you're well. Welcome to this video. Today, as you can see from the title, we will be doing the birth chart reading for Jin from BTS. So welcome, hope you're well. I'm excited for this, hope you are as well. I'm gonna talk about myself a little bit. So I'm Ariane, as I said, pronounced she, her if you want to know. And I'm a professional astrologer, and I'm also an ARMY. I've been a BTS fan since 2014. And obviously, since I'm an astrologer, I love to kind of look into birth charts of certain celebrities or public figures or historical figures that I'm interested in. So, of course, I have looked at BTS's birth charts a while ago, and then I kind of realized that, there's not many people who, just in terms of like the population, who know about as much about astrology as I do because I'm a professional. And there's a lot of armies that I think would be really interested to hear about the birth chart of the boys. So that's why I'm doing these videos, because I love BTS, I love astrology, I love talking about it. So I invite you to join me on that journey. I am doing a video for every single member of the group. I've already done Jimin was the first one that I did. I will link the playlist where all the videos of BTS birth chart readings will be down below. So you can check it out. And this is the second one. And the next one will be Jungkook, because I was asked to do him next in the comments. So if you want to get your bias in the next few videos, make sure to comment and let me know. But I will get to all of them, obviously. Okay, so today we're doing Jin. I also wanted to clarify what is astrology? I mean, obviously, you know what astrology is, but just a few clarifications on what is the purpose of astrology, how is it meant to be used, because even though in the recent years it's become more mainstream, there's a lot of kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Oh my God. There's a lot of like informal content about astrology that doesn't really clearly paint the picture about what it is or what is its purpose or what can it be used for, what can't it be used for. So I just want to clarify that and tell you my approach before we get into it. So astrology is a tool. Is a tool that you can use for many different things. I use it in terms of getting to know yourself more, getting to grow as a person, getting to evolve. Just knowing what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, what you can do to improve on those weaknesses, etc. So that's going to be the approach that I'm going to be using today. I have a psychological approach, growth-oriented approach, spiritual approach to astrology, and also astrology is not deterministic. It doesn't define who you are. It doesn't define your life. It's not like a set in stone yes or no that this is going to happen to you or you are going to be like this just because this is in your birth chart. That's not how astrology works. Okay, astrology gives us hints, it's a guide. It doesn't define or control us or our lives. Okay, so that's also a very important thing for you to know. And yeah, last thing I want to say before we actually get into the reading is that there are some things, obviously the kind of ethics of doing a video like this might be a bit kind of blurry because we're technically, obviously, his birthday is public because he's a celebrity, but he doesn't necessarily know that we can know all those things about him from his birth chart, well, from knowing his birthday, so he hasn't technically consented to this. And so because of that, there are some maybe areas of life or things that I can get hints about from his birth chart that I'm not going to talk about or I'm not going to bring up because I think it's just really personal and I just wouldn't feel comfortable doing that unless that person had passed away or I was doing a one-on-one consultation with that person with a client. Okay, so those were the disclaimers that I wanted to give you today. Now let's actually pull up his chart and get into the reading. All right, so let's get this chart. So this is Jin's birth chart here. There you go. And I do one last thing I want to say. So you can look at it. There you go. If you know how to read read wheel charts. This is his chart, okay? We see the Sagittarius sun here, the Aries moon, and the Pisces rising. One last thing I want to say is that the birth time might be wrong, okay? Because as far as I know, like BTS have never like publicly said their birth time, which is not surprising because it's a very, most people don't even know their birth time. But at one point a few years ago, I had Googled it to see if I could actually find it. And what I did find some birth times for every single member. I don't remember which website it was from. It didn't say where, like, what the source was, or if it came from the boys themselves. I don't know. So it could, I did take them because that was the only data that I had gotten, and I was like, okay, that's interesting. I'm going to like look into it and see what the chart looks like when I use this birth time. But it could be wrong. And if it was wrong, what would potentially change is the rising sign here, potentially the moon sign if he was born like much earlier in the day, but I don't think so. I think the Aries moon fits perfectly. Potentially the rising sign and in what houses the planets are in. But the signs that the planets are in, as well as the aspects between the planets, would stay the same. Okay, so that was like the final last disclaimer, but I'm going to talk about this chart as if the birth time is correct moving onwards, okay? So Jin, born December 4th, 1992 in Gwacheon, South Korea at 1:37 p.m. That is the birth info here. So as I said, we have Sagittarius sun here, Aries moon, and then Pisces rising. And what's really interesting is that we have although they are in different signs, because the Aries moon is at the very beginning of Aries at 3 degrees here, and the ascendant is at the very last degree of Pisces, 29 degrees, there is a conjunction between the two of them, meaning the sun is right on the moon is right on the ascendant. So since I'm already talking about this, might as well start with that because yeah, I forgot to say my approach with this birth chart reading is just to kind of uh, see what I'm guided to talk about and just kind of extrapolate on those things, explain those things. And we're not going to get to the entirety of the chart because birth charts are so complex. You could write an entire 500 pages book about every single birth chart on Earth. So it would be impossible to get into everything, but I'm just, as I said, going to go where I'm drawn to talk about, and that's what we're going to talk about. And it's pretty much the same approach that I do when I'm in a one-on-one client reading. So as well, if you're curious to get your birth chart read by me next, then you know how much like my approach and my take on astrology and my knowledge. So you get a little teasing of what that looks like. And if you want to get yours, you can just check out the link in the description, but I'll mention that at the end as well. So the moon here in Aries, in the sign of Aries, which is the first sign of the zodiac, okay? The moon represents our inner self, okay? It represents our emotions, our habits, or relationship that we have with our mother or whoever was the primary caretaker when we grew up. And it's a more private and personal part of ourselves, okay? And so the fact that you have it on the ascendant, and the ascendant is about, it's the first impression that you give off. Yes, it's more than that, but the first impression thing, it's more in the sense of like, that's the energy that people pick up from you first when they meet you in person, okay? The ascendant is more about in person here. So for people like BTS, they are public figures. A lot of people know of them or have seen them before, but not necessarily in person or haven't met them personally. That's more so the midheaven here, which is the reputation. And social media, all those types of things, career, and the public life, that's ruled by the midheaven. So, if you haven't met them in person, like me, like the first impression you got of them was more their midheaven. But if you were to meet him in person, it would be his ascendant that would come through. Okay, the ascendant can be connected as well to like some features of physical appearance, but not that much. Okay, it's more energy wise because obviously we're so varied as human beings and physical features that like it would be kind of difficult to say like, oh, there's 12 different types of faces or something. So Pisces rising, and rising and ascendant are the two words for the same thing, by the way, okay? Pisces rising, and then the moon conjunct the ascendant. Conjunction means that they're the two planets or the 2 points here who have a point with the ascendant and a planet with the moon. Well, it's technically a luminary. I know in astrology we'll often refer to the sun and the moon as planets as well, because that's how astrologers used to refer to them before we even knew they weren't planets, and they have the same function, and uh, they work the same as the other planets. Okay, so I know they're not technically planets. If we're talking of the facts in astronomy, I might still call them planets, just PSA. So here we have a conjunction, meaning they're just a few degrees away. Here they are 4 degrees apart. And it means that in astrology, in terms of your personality, means that those two aspects of your personality come together. They're very much joined together for you. They're very much the same. It's hard for them to distinguish them as two different parts of yourself. And they always work together. When one of them is activated, the other it will be as well. So with what I've told you about what the moon represents, it is an interesting aspect to have the moon on the ascendant, because the ascendant is so visible. It's like the first thing that you show people. And the moon is your emotions. And so for most people, the moon isn't, your emotions and your inner self and your moon is not the first thing that you show to people. It's not the first thing you want to show to people. With this placement, it's not necessarily deliberate as well. It's not necessarily like done consciously or on purpose. So depending on the aspects of the moon, you can see whether or not this person might struggle with that. However, with um, the trines here to first Mercury and Pluto in Scorpio and then Mars in Cancer, there does seem to be some harmonious acceptance around this fact for him. But if you look at the opposition to Jupiter in Libra here in the seventh house, it can be that sometimes he feels like him being so genuine and kind of wearing his heart on his sleeve, and his emotions probably, the thing is, people with moon in the first house, they often have like their emotions, however they're feeling, just show on their face, like they cannot hide it. And I have a person in my life, like in my family, who has this aspect, and they're 100% like this, like, you know you always know how they're feeling. If you upset them or if they disagree with you, it's going to show all over their face. So that could be that's probably how he is as well. And with the opposition to Jupiter in Libra, he could feel like sometimes it hinders the potential growth that he could have with other people and in relationships, okay? But it's a pretty wide opposition right here. It's at 10 degrees here, 3 degrees, and there's also some really nice trines to other planets in the birth chart. So I don't feel like this is something that challenges him or upsets him that much, that he probably seems like such an open book. There's definitely an energy of genuineness and authenticity here, especially we already have that with the sign of Jupiter where the sun is in. And then Aries as well, all of the three fire signs, Aries, Leo, Sagittarius, are known to be honest and genuine. And we have two of the big threes here in fire signs, the sun and Sagittarius, which is the self, how you identify yourself, your vitality, where you shine the most. That's what the sun represents in Sagittarius, and the moon in Aries here in the first house. Yes, this is a very genuine person. And they like to be honest, they like to be direct. They don't necessarily like for people to be playing games, although if people are playing games, they can tell. Or he can tell. Sorry, I keep forgetting that I should be using he to talk about him, but um, because with the conjunction to between Mercury and Pluto, this was really surprising to me when I pulled up his birth chart. Okay, and in the eighth house too, and this is not something that would change if his birth time was different. What could change would be whether or not it's in the eighth house, but Mercury and Pluto would still be conjunct. Okay, this is an aspect that is conjunct for a couple of days. Okay. Um, This is and then the trine to Mars in Cancer. This is so interesting because actually, um, although he is a very honest person and his kind of default mode is probably to just be an open book and be direct and saying what he really thinks and how he really feels, he does have the capacity to kind of keep some things for himself and be more private or detect when people are lying. Okay, I know I said something along those same lines when I was talking about Jimin's chart. He had the conjunction to between Mars and Pluto, but this is different, okay? Because here we have Mercury and Pluto, and they're so close to, right? Literally like less than 1 degree difference. So this is such a meaningful and significant part of his personality, okay? Because in astrology, like the closer an orb an aspect is, the closer they are together, um, the more it actually impacts you and the more you actually feel it in your day-to-day life and in your personality. So this is a very strong aspect. And Mercury is the planet that rules communication and the mind and how you your perspective on things, how you process things cognitively, how you express yourself, how you communicate, your opinions, those types of things. Okay, and Mercury and Scorpio here. Um, this is really I like there is a um kind of balanced personality kind of feeling with this, okay? Because with the sun and the moon, you have a lot of like very fiery, direct, and honest, and out there, and really passionate and enthusiastic, optimistic, potentially extroverted energy. And then with this Mercury in Scorpio and then conjunct to Pluto, there is also a capacity for him to just kind of retreat into his own thoughts, okay? So this is someone who um and since we know him, I'm not pretending, of course, like my reading of this chart is impacted by what I know about him. Like I'm not pretending in this video that I'm being like objective, okay? That's not my goal either. We do know that he is a jokester, right? And that we do see that explained with like the other fire signs I talked about. That's something that comes very naturally for him. But for him to talk about more in-depth personal stuff, he doesn't do it as often or maybe as comfortably. And we do see that here in conjunction to Pluto and Mercury just being in Scorpio as well, right? Pluto's at home in the sign of Scorpio, so there are some similarities between those two archetypes here. Um, yes, okay. And the thing is, this is very much an aspect of like, I can tell if people are lying to me. I can tell if people are hiding something when they're talking to me. I'm capable of being very strategic with the way that I reveal myself, my true feelings, the way that I communicate to you, what tone of voice I'm using, what word am I using, in what order am I using it, what sentence, it's going to be the aspect of someone who's very good at negotiation or strategy stuff or marketing or something like that or whatever it is because they're able to see a lot of things that are happening. Okay, this is kind of like the aspect of someone who's like remember, I don't know if you watched the Queen's Gambit, those scenes where she is like planning all of the freaking moves that she could see ahead, and it's so complex and she has that like foresight. She has that foresight, which makes her able to strategize and win. This is that kind of aspect. I'm not saying he's good at chess because not necessarily if he's never done it before. This isn't like a chess master automatically makes you a chess master kind of aspect. As I've told you at the beginning of this video, your birth chart doesn't define who you are. It doesn't say like you're going to be this or like that. Um, and it's set in stone or something. Obviously, if he did want to pick it up and try it, yeah, maybe he would be really good at it. Um, yes. But then what's also I do like that we have here the trine between that Scorpio Mercury Pluto conjunction to the moon in Aries here, because if we had the quincunx, which would have been the other possible aspect between those two signs, if either Mercury and Pluto had been in earlier degrees of Scorpio or the moon had been in later degrees of Aries, there could have been more conflict here that was shown. But what's really nice about this is that he's able to really kind of this is also an aspect of like thinking really, really deeply about things and caring really about things and being very, very curious about things and being really good at investigating. Okay, this is like really good detective or very good at research, investigation, that kind of stuff. Okay, Pluto Mercury aspects. He's able to have that part of himself and honor that part of himself, and at the same time still being joyful and childlike and honest and open with his emotions to the people that he meets with that Aries moon in the first house. Okay, so I really love that about it. That Aries moon as well. Yes, Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. There is a childlike energy to Aries, not necessarily childish. Okay, childish is more of a distorted Aries manifestation. It's not how it's meant to be. It happens sometimes, not necessarily. I'm not really getting that from him. uh, but yes, a sense of childlike wonder that that's like really important to the sign of Aries. Some other signs that can be associated to this sometimes are Gemini and Leo. um but yeah, most people who meet him probably find him very refreshing, especially in a field like show business. I'm sure, I'm not in it, but we've heard a lot of stuff about how there's a lot of games and there's a lot of strategy, there's a lot of dishonest people, or there's a lot of people who are like playing a role in like the public persona that they have, which I don't really see this happening for him here. Like I don't think, maybe he could, but I feel like even if he tried to put on like a fake persona, it would just be like he would be like, why? Or it would just be exhausting because it would just be so inauthentic for him. And he's not meant to be inauthentic at all. And for him, authenticity comes so naturally, so it just wouldn't make sense. Um, and when people meet him, especially people from all social business, they probably feel a breath of fresh air that he's so honest and joyful and generally enjoying himself and all those types of things, and that he's straight up with you and he's passionate about what he does. So I'm sure a lot of people who meet him in person, admire him for that, whether he is in show business or not. Like you probably really feel when you meet him that he's like a real human person and that he is who he says he is, essentially, which is really cool. Um, okay. Where else do I want to go next? Yeah, okay. Let's talk about the Sun Vesta conjunction here, okay? Because Vesta is an asteroid, okay? It's not a planet, but asteroids are fun to work with in astrology. And when I prepare these readings, I do kind of check to see if there's some asteroids that are placed in like very interesting spots in a natal chart to see if they're actually relevant for that birth chart. And I mean, you can see this is the sun here, and then we have Vesta here, and they're both at 12 degrees Sagittarius. They're just a few, I believe those are minutes away. They're extremely close. Essentially, they are in like exact conjunction. You can call it exact when it's like 1 degree or less. They are in exact conjunction to each other. And disclaimer, I'm not like an expert on asteroids, okay? So like some people know much more than me, so I'm not going to talk and talk and talk and talk about it for too long because I don't know that much about it. I do know more about like the planets and stuff. Um, but as I said earlier, as I mentioned it quickly, the sun represents or sense of self or identity or vitality, how we identify ourselves, how we uh, who we feel that we are and who we are meant to be as well. Okay, like our sun is kind of part of our life purpose, and it also represents where we shine the most. I think I forgot that one. Where we shine the most in our lives. And the conjunction between the sun and Vesta is an asteroid that represents service and sacrifice and also a kind of spiritual commitment. And so it's a very interesting kind of identity to have, the conjunction between the sun and Vesta. Okay, and the thing is, it's exact as well, as I said. And Sagittarius is a sign that's usually more focused on having fun and learning and exploring the world rather than duty or being putting themselves to being of service to others and that kind of stuff. So I was like, oh wow, that's really interesting. But then I was like, I feel like that makes sense with who he is. He does know that when he shines his like what he's meant to I don't know if he knows, but like yet, but who he's meant to be and how he's meant to live his life. It's like, yes, explore the world for yourself, but also know that you, when you are being yourself, when you are expressing who you are, when you are being genuine to the world, you are being of service to the world, and that benefits everyone else essentially. And the sun in the ninth house, this is a person that shines the most when they are studying, when they are teaching what they know, when they are talking about their personal philosophies, when they are exploring the world on their own terms instead of just learning the facts from the books, when they are traveling the world as well, okay, when they are kind of expanding, essentially. That's what the ninth house is about. Okay, so he would all, regardless of whether or not he would have been in BTS, he probably has always wanted to travel and would have ended up doing so anyway. Um, yeah, Sagittarius is also connected to higher education. So there you go. This is definitely a placement of like, these people are very like thirsty for knowledge. Okay, people with like strong Gemini or Sagittarius placements are very thirsty for knowledge, and they really keep learning like their entire life. For them, it's not just about school, especially Sagittarius. They really love to kind of learn and become wiser when they experience the world firsthand instead of just learning about it. Okay, so yeah, so he probably feels like the person who that he is also just a big like compilation of all the experiences that he's had in his life and all the things that he's done. um yeah, and gaining knowledge and gaining wisdom, that kind of stuff. Okay. um mhm. Where else do I want to go from here? So um Saturn here in Aquarius, okay? Um, we have Saturn here in Aquarius in the 11th house, conjunct to the asteroid of Ceres, which you can see here. And I feel, and it's also making a trine actually to Jupiter in Libra. And I feel like here we really see his role in BTS amongst many other things, okay, because every planet represents many things. And we also have Venus here in the 11th house. Okay, there's definitely here, especially with Venus and Saturn, a feeling of connection to the collective, to something greater than them. Okay, this is someone who very much, with the Sagittarius sun and the Aries moon and that the Jupiter in the seventh house, we do see that there is some extroversion to the personality. This is probably someone who likes to meet all different kinds of new people, because when we talk about like, the new experiences with Sagittarius, it includes like meeting new people. Probably someone who likes meeting new people, right? And who, with these placements in the 11th house, who likes feeling part of a certain community, of a group, who has higher ideals and aspirations and personal ideas for our world. Okay, with his placements in his birth chart here actually lead me to think that he is very politically engaged, or is that the word? How can you say that in English? um Maybe not necessarily politically, but he probably has a lot of opinions about a lot of things that are probably connected to humanitarian causes, social justice, or politics. But as we saw with the Mercury Pluto conjunction, he's absolutely capable of keeping that for himself if he wants to. Uh, and it's understandable why he's doing it, right? Like, I don't think like the BTS haven't talked. Obviously, they've talked about their personal values a lot, and so you can guess certain things. But and they've supported certain causes publicly. But beyond that, obviously, they're not really going to talk about like their political opinions. But he probably has many of them, and probably thinks really deeply about those things. And maybe in private, he kind of talks about them. Uh, but yeah, he has a certain vision for the future, for the world. He does feel connected to something greater than himself. And with Venus here as well, yes. Um, so the 11th house is also about friends. It's also about groups, which is why I said I do see this being connected to BTS, because Saturn here is about, well, amongst many things, okay? Saturn represents uh older people in our lives. So we do see here, maybe he's been in groups or communities where people have been older than him, but it can also represent yourself. And it's like we know obviously in BTS he is the oldest member, so I do feel like this shows some of that. And the conjunction to the series here. Okay, series represents it is kind of a mother archetype. It speaks of nurturing. Okay. And so wherever it is in our birth chart, it tells us that how we like to nurture people and how we like to be nurtured. Okay. And so for him, this energy here is in the 11th house of friends and groups. Okay, so we do see here this kind of energy from him of like being the mother of the group, and he really takes it seriously that he's like the elder of the group and passing on that wisdom and helping the younger members kind of improve who they are or get to know themselves better, or just finding that mastery through hard work. That is what Saturn represents here. And with both of these um because essentially what this is showing is that the conjunction between Sirius and Saturn, like how he's probably been nurtured by his own mother or own parents, and how he likes being nurtured is being shown kind of tough love, but in the goal of having you improve yourself and master your craft, master who you are. And both of these being in the sign of Aquarius, this is like encouraging you to embrace who you are as a unique individual. So that's really beautiful. That's how he likes to be nurtured, and that's how he nurtures other people that he loves. And then both of them making a trine to Jupiter here. Jupiter in the seventh house, it's a really nice placement. There's actually multiple members in the group who have this. Jupiter in the seventh house, okay? Wherever Jupiter is, it represents abundance, it represents expansion. So it expands everything it touches, both good and bad. But overall, Jupiter is a benefic, so most of the time it does show the area of life where we kind of are more blessed or luckier than most other people. And he has his in the seventh house of connections and relationships, and the other and other people, and also his shadow side. So what in the sign of Libra, in the sign of relationships, okay, so what this tells us is that for him, meeting people and getting to connect with people and creating bonds and relationships with people is something that comes really easily to him, and he gets a lot of opportunities to do that. Okay, so I don't, this is not really a placement of someone who is and as well, since we also don't have any planets in the 12th house here, this is not someone who is like often alone or often feels lonely. Okay, some people have placements like this, okay, and it's not really like a bad thing. Some people are more meant to have a more solitary lifestyle. This is not someone like this. This is someone who really enjoys connecting with other people, having fun with other people, going out with them, discussing with them, and having really philosophical conversations with other people as well. Okay, not just surface level stuff, but Jupiter is a very gregarious fun planet. Okay, this is someone who likes to have fun in their relationships, who likes to have humor. And Jupiter being in Libra here, this is someone who's really gifted at relationships. This is someone who's really good at having a very balanced perspective, of being able to like put myself in your shoes so that I see like your perspective of the conflict when we have conflict, or I see like your side of things so I can respect it, and I can also allow myself to express myself at the same time. Okay. Um, yeah. And there's an innate charm as well to this placement. Um, yeah, so and then we have the trine here between Jupiter and Libra in the seventh house, and Saturn and Ceres in Aquarius in the 11th house. And the trine is a harmonious aspect in astrology, okay? It tells us that there is a natural harmony and kind of collaboration between the two parts of our chart and the two parts of our personality. So everything that I mentioned when I was talking about Saturn and Ceres, there's also a natural connection with what I'm talking about with Jupiter and Libra here. So all of those kind of gifts that he has in regards to having harmonious relationships with people, he's able to channel that through building something, building a foundation, having really great friends. This is someone who really loves their friends with the Venus in the 11th house as well. Okay. This is probably someone who he doesn't necessarily think that romantic relationships are more important or higher or always deeper and more important than friendships, because this is someone who really values their friendships. In terms of romantic relationships, this is probably someone who likes to get to know someone more on a friendly basis and feel like your partner is your best friend before they actually get together. That's probably something that's very important for them. Either way, with a nice trine to Saturn here and Venus being in Capricorn, which is ruled by Saturn, in all of their relationships, whether romantic or platonic, with the people that they love, people with this, well, Jin here, like he wants to build connections that are very stable and solid and long term. This is not someone, although he has the opportunity to meet a bunch of different people and connect with a bunch of people, he probably does appreciate that. It's like at the end of the day, he also has his inner circle of people that are really important. And those people that are kind of like chosen, he really gets along with. He really uh invests in those relationships. If there's a conflict, he's not going to just give up. Or if there needs to be, he understands the concept that like you need to work on your relationships to make them work, to make them last. And that's something that he's kind of able to do quite naturally. So that's really beautiful. And one last thing I'm going to say about that is that the 11th house is also about like the collective, right? When I was talking about like feeling connected to something greater than himself. And with Venus here and as well, like he really loves his fans. That is like for sure. He really feels connected to us. He really feels like that's what's funny. It's like the idea of like a close, small knit circle, and at the same time, like of course that includes like the BTS members, his family, his friends, his romantic partner if he has one. Um, but it also includes the fans, which is like a big collective of people. So it sounds a bit contradictory, but that's how he feels about it. So there's that. Um, is there something else I want to talk about? Let's talk about the Mars and Cancer here in the fifth house, okay? So Mars in Cancer is a pretty interesting placement as well. There there's also some other members in BTS who have this, I believe, but we'll get there when we get to them. Mars in Cancer, Mars represents our anger or masculine side, the way that we assert ourselves, um, what we care about, how we assert ourselves when we do so, uh, that type of stuff. Obviously, I'm forgetting a bunch of stuff, but amongst many other things, that's kind of like the introduction to Mars here. And Mars, Cancer is not a sign that's very well known for being very expressive about their anger or being very angry for that matter, or it can happen. All right, so sorry about that. Yes, so Mars and Cancer. Um, yeah, Cancer is not a sign that's known to be very expressive about their anger. So people who have Mars and Cancer, like Jen here, it can be a more challenging placement than Mars and some other signs, like for the fire signs, for example, because Mars is at home in Aries. And he also has Mars retrograde. So he was born during a Mars retrograde. So for him, it's actually, we talked a lot about how he's very honest and able to kind of says what he thinks when he wants to. At the same time, he has difficulty expressing his anger and standing up for himself when he needs to do so. Probably is what we're seeing here with this Mars placement. Um, you know, it doesn't mean that he's doomed, okay? Like, we do here see a kind of inherent challenge with this placement, but there are ways to kind of improve this and work on this so that he is more able to express that anger, because you know anger is not our enemy. It's important to be able to express it healthily and to express how we feel when we are upset or when we do feel like there is an injustice happening, something like that, okay? um and with the trine to Mercury and Pluto and Scorpio here, it's like he's able to like, it's like he's able to kind of not to really be secretive and private about what his true feelings are and his true thoughts are and opinions a lot. So that can serve him very well, obviously, and some in regards to some things that he wants to keep private, which is very normal for everyone, but especially for a public figure, you know. You know, this is not someone who's going to like um I'm thinking of like unrelated to BTS, but you know the actor Tom Holland, how like there were some like memes online at one point that like he just going around that he just couldn't contain himself and he was always spoiling stuff from his upcoming movies because like he had no filter, he couldn't control himself. This is not an up aspect like that at all. Okay, this is someone who can really think about what they're going to say before they say and be really calculating, and you know it serves them sometimes. So that's probably not a worry for him that he's going to say something that he doesn't want to say or that he doesn't want to reveal or that he's going to spoil anything. He's good at keeping the secret when necessary. But the thing that can also happen here with the trine to Mars and Cancer in retrograde is that if he wants to, you know, if someone has upset him or made him angry and he decides that he doesn't want them to know, it can be very easy for him to pretend like he's not mad when he is. And in interpersonal relationships, that can cause a lot of issues and a lot of misunderstandings. You know, people with Mars and Cancer can sometimes become a bit more um, kind of passive aggressive sometimes. That can be like a more default or natural way for them. It just feels easier for them to express their anger in that way rather than being very direct. Because they take things, you know, when they are angry, it's very much deeply rooted in their emotions. They are very personally hurt, and you know that's valid. Um, but they don't necessarily know, like it's like they want to keep the peace at the same time, where they might kind of tell themselves that they're overreacting, so they don't necessarily know, or maybe they haven't had the kind of um, how they've seen their parents express their anger. They haven't really learned how to do that clearly and healthily. Um, but that's more potentially going to be a struggle for his personal life. It's really something that's difficult for him to learn. Compared to some other people, to really assert himself when he wants to, when he needs to. But obviously, he can learn to do so. And a way where he can, one of the things he can do uh, to actually get better at doing this is express himself artistically, express his anger through artistic expression and artistic creation, which he already does because he's an artist. Um, but yeah, this is probably whenever he does so, or if he does so, that's probably very healing for him. There's probably like a lot of things that he says in his music that he feels he can't say otherwise, or that he has difficulty expressing otherwise. Um, yeah, so it's a very great way for him to be himself and show more of himself to us, to the world. And also, the house that Mars is in our natal chart shows us the area of life where we put the most physical energy. Okay, because Mars also rules that our physical energy, our physical body. And the fifth house is the house of fun, romance, but it's also the house of artistic expression and showing who we truly are. So, I mean, this is essentially like a whole you know, we've gone to the whole cycle, we've gone full circle to the concept of authenticity and expressing who he is, which is a lot of what his birth chart is about. So I think I'm gonna stop here for that. Okay, I've kind of been saying what I wanted to say with this. There's still a bunch of things that could go further on, but I feel called to stop here. I feel like I've been talking for a bit, and this was already really interesting. So I hope that you found it interesting as well. I hope that you enjoyed it. Thank you for being here. If you liked it and you want to watch the other videos when they come out, or you want to keep up with what I do, make sure to subscribe to the channel, okay, for more. I would love to have you here. We're awesome. Um, you can let me know by liking the video, commenting down below. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know what you like. Let me know who you want me to do next after Jungkook, because I'm going to do him next. And then after that, who do you want me to do next? Because I will take that into account for sure. And if you have other suggestions, other celebrities, public figures, or historical figures that you would like me to do and read their chart, it doesn't have to be K-pop related or BTS related or anything like that. Let me know in the comments, and if your comment and the person you're mentioning inspires me, I might as well do them in the future. So make sure that you please let me know if you have ideas, suggestions, things, and requests. I would love to know that. Um, and share this video with people who might enjoy it. Share it on social media, share it with your army friends. That greatly helps me out, and just the more the merrier, right? Um, if you'd like to get your birth chart read by me, as I mentioned before, you can absolutely do that. Just check out the link down below where you can book a birth chart reading or solar return chart reading, which is essentially that you get a new chart for the year every single year at your birthday, and it speaks of your upcoming year. I have right now, I'm recording this right now during Scorpio season. If you are Scorpio sun, I have a special promo code for you. Uh, Check the description of the video for all of that, okay? Um, I'm also a tarot reader and a psychic synthesis life coach, so I also do tarot readings. You can purchase one from me one-on-one, as well as coaching. If you want to get more free content, well, I have a bunch of old tarot readings on here, but now I will be mostly, for my tarot readings, mostly switching to my new podcast, which is also Neptune and Serenity. Right now it's only on Spotify, but eventually will be everywhere where podcasts are heard. So, check that out if you're interested. Check out my Instagram. You can send me a donation or a tip if you really enjoyed this. There's a link down below. And I think besides that, I think I've said everything I wanted to say. So thank you for being here. I love you so much. Love BTS. And I'll see you next time. Bye.